answer this.
It won't be an outage. It won't be a cyber attack. The next big NG911 failure won't be some big dramatic Hollywood moment. It'll likely be something simple, far more subtle, and most troubling, preventable. Today we're going to look ahead at the most likely next point of failure in the NG911 ecosystem, and more importantly, how you can stop it before it starts. That's coming up next on TiPS, Today in Public Safety.
Welcome to TiPS, Today in Public Safety, your go-to podcast for today's breaking stories and public safety news. Here's your host, Fletch, with today's tips.
Welcome to TiPS, Today in Public Safety. This is Fletch. I'm a NENA certified ENP, and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday I bring you the latest, most informative, and sometimes difficult conversations around emergency communications. Today's topic is one that hasn't hit the headlines yet, but it will, because the next big NG911 failure is already quietly in motion, and where it'll happen is written all over our current deployments. Not technical, but human. Look, let's get something straight here. NG911's not just a technology platform, it's a socio-technical system, and that means it relies not just on the code, but culture. Not just on networks, but on people. And the most dangerous failures? Well, they don't come from a fiber cut or bad firmware push. They come from assumptions, poor validation, data that's blindly trusted, and workflows that were never tested in the real world. Where it will start. So where exactly is this failure going to originate? Well, it'll start where NG911 data enters the system, from places like enterprise, IoT platforms, and third-party data aggregators. The moment that a PSAP gets data from a new source and assumes that that data is valid, that becomes the flashpoint. Think about an unvalidated campus panic button, a commercial high-rise with a faulty gateway, or a hospital feeding out room-level data during a crisis. Now, these aren't wild hypotheticals. They're all real deployments that we've seen. And when the PSAP is left guessing or chasing phantom leads, and doing that in the middle of an emergency, that's when the failure goes live. Reality check. We need to stop pretending that NG911 integration is plug and play. You don't get resilience just because you bought the latest tech. You get it from rigorous validation, interoperability and testing, governance and policy, and human training that's actually grounded in the field, not marketing slides. Otherwise, all we've done is move the failure further upstream, which is where it's harder to see until it's too late. The bottom line. The fact is the next big NG911 failure hasn't happened yet, but it will. And when it does, it won't be the fault of the network, or the vendor, or the equipment. It'll likely be the fault of complacency, or assuming that because it's digital, it's done. So if you're in public safety, ask questions. If you're deploying systems, test everything, and then test it again. And if you're feeding data into the ecosystem, prove that your data works, not just once, but continuously. Because the future of NG911 depends on active vigilance. And the moment that we stop validating is the moment that we start failing. That wraps up this episode of TiPS, Today in Public Safety. Thanks so much for listening. I hope we gave you something to think about. For more updates and insights, remember to follow me on social media at Fletch911. Visit 911tips.com for a full archive of all of our previous episodes. You can find my blogs on fletch.tv, and of course my professional website is at fletch911.com. Stay safe, thanks so much for listening, and if you're in public safety, thanks for what you do every single day. Take care, and I'll catch you next time.
You've been listening to TiPS, Today in Public Safety, your go-to podcast for today's breaking stories and public safety news. Hosted by Fletch and available every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Catch past episodes on 911tips.com. Be sure to like and subscribe, and remember to join us each week for the latest on NG911. I am Spider Harrison, the official 911 voiceover dude. Catch me on SiriusXM on various channels, including 90s on 9, the 10th spot and on the weekend countdown on Hits 1. Or don't regret it for the rest of your life. Either way, I'm good.